This is the first ever video that I'm filming from my new place in Milan. Hello my friends! In this video we're going to talk about some language learning mistakes that I have done in the past and that I believe that many people are still doing without realizing. So hopefully this video will help you recognize these mistakes and you can just adjust them so that you can learn your target language easily. If you don't know about me, I'm İclal, originally from Turkey, but currently I'm living in Italy for my university studies. I'm about to turn 19 and I speak 8-9 languages because right now I'm learning Swedish and I'm actively learning languages since 2020, so I think that my experience can be really helpful. There's surely something that really inspired you to finally start to learn your target language. This can be someone who speaks this language really fluently, but please be careful while starting, while you're setting goals. Always keep in mind what you realistically can do while studying that language. Setting overly ambitious goals or just expecting to speak this language quite fluently in a shorter time frame is a really big mistake that many language learners are unfortunately doing. This mistake can eventually lead to frustration and disappointment. For example, in my case, in 2020 I decided to learn German and Russian at the same time, which are the most difficult languages that I can speak right now, and I literally started learning them during the same week. And I was expecting the process to be as easy as my previous languages, which are French, Italian and Spanish. So you can actually see that this isn't a realistic goal at all. I was expecting everything to be super easy and I was expecting to speak fluent Russian and German in a couple of weeks as I did it with Italian and Spanish, but obviously that wasn't the case. Even though I can speak both of the languages fluently right now, that time in my life when I was learning two of them simultaneously as a 16-year-old girl, it was quite depressing. So just don't be harsh on yourself and set achievable and incremental goals and focus on specific aspects of language learning. I didn't want to specify this as focusing a lot on grammar or ignoring grammar because I think both of these things can be a mistake. That's why I want to talk about grammar-related mistakes in general. I'm not the type of YouTube polyglot that's going to tell you that grammar is super useless and that babies learn languages without paying attention to grammar and that they just listen to people around. Unfortunately, I'm not a baby to talk to you, and I wish I was a baby because I admire babies a lot. They're so clueless about everything and they can also learn languages easily, but still, considering that we are not babies, you should learn some grammar. As a polyglot who speaks all of these languages, grammar was never something that I ignored during my language learning process, except my first language, French. When I started learning French, I was 11 years old, so I had no idea what grammar was and I didn't know how to learn a language, so I didn't study any grammar until when I was 14, 15, but I also couldn't speak any French until that time. When I started studying grammar, I actually realized that I was learning French, but before that I was just watching some random content on YouTube. Giving an appropriate amount of attention to grammar saved my French, Italian and Spanish. But an opposite case would be me learning Russian, because when I was learning Russian I expected everything to be like other languages, so I was spending all of my time watching random grammar videos and learning new grammar rules, thinking that it would make me fluent, but it didn't. And it also made me so frustrated and I started hating the Russian language. But then at some point I told myself, okay, the grammar that I have learned so far should be enough and I'm not learning any more grammar in detail. I'll be focusing on listening and speaking. And right now I speak fluent Russian thanks to all this time that I spent listening to Russian and getting exposed to a lot of Russian contents, but also my grammar level is appreciated by many native speakers among you. Just strike the balance between grammar and other skills so that at the end you can have a better result. I often talk about how listening is my favorite skill to practice because it's so rewarding and easy at the same time. You are just sitting and watching something interesting, you are learning a bunch of new things, you are getting the pronunciation, you are learning about the culture, and besides all of that, it's a great step to fluency. But unfortunately, many language learners would still neglect the importance of listening to a lot in your target language because they would think that their level isn't enough for that or they have other things to do before starting to listening. Actually, there's is no like proper time of starting to listen in your target language. You should be always doing it from the very beginning, when you don't know anything in that language, till the very end you are an advanced speaker in that language. If you have difficulties finding quality listening content in your target language, I got you. Because in this video I'm going to talk about LingoPie, which is basically the Netflix of language learning world. LingoPie is a great language learning platform that uses foreign TV shows and movies to teach you 9 languages, and they add new content every week. Integrating this kind of material into your language learning process can be quite challenging, but LingoPie is specially designed for us language learners, so you can watch your favorite foreign shows in an effective and engaging way. Some of the features that LingoPie has and that I really appreciate are the fact that you can just click on a word and you can get an instant translation, and you can also choose in which subtitles you are watching the show, like in English or in the original subtitles. You can also view the screen transcription, which enables you to follow the show way easily. And LingoPie also has several tools, like you can just change the speed of the show that you are watching, or you can use flashcards and quizzes to practice the vocabulary. You can do it while watching, after a few words, or afterwards you can just revise all the vocabulary that you have learned on LingoPie. Besides, you can choose in the settings that it automatically replaces the sentence so that you can practice it, or you could also use the Say It feature to practice your pronunciation by repeating the sentence. If LingoPie sounds like a great idea, I have good news for you, because LingoPie offers a 7-day free trial with 5 to 5% discount. All you have to do is just visit the link in the description of this video. Right before starting to learn your target language, you may have asked a few people about their resources or recommendations, and you may have a list of the resources that you can use while learning this language, and that's a great thing. But something that I want you to pay attention to is, if you have an unrealistic number of resources that you are planning to use while learning this language, at the end you will get overwhelmed. It can also lead to confusion, because at some point you won't have an idea where to study grammar, where to practice listening, where to learn the basics of the language. What I would advise is, and this goes mostly for beginners, because beginners don't have an idea how to study this specific language. For beginners, you should find a few quality resources that will show you the way that you are following. That may be like an online course, a YouTube playlist, a textbook that covers at least the A1 level of that language. For example, right now I'm learning Swedish, and I'm learning Swedish with like 2 or 3 resources. There is a podcast that I'm listening, and there is a textbook that I'm following for A1 and A2. And I'm not just watching 2,000 different channels on YouTube trying to understand grammar topics. For example, if you're learning German, I know that there are like thousands of videos on YouTube explaining Akkusativ und Dativ, and they're like, don't give detailed explanations and just show you a small aspect of the topic. So you're just watching 1,000 videos to understand the topic. But if you had a material that shows you clearly everything from the beginning till the end, it would be easier for you to figure out this grammatical topic. Maybe for advanced learners this issue isn't quite serious, because you just know how things work in that language. But if you're a beginner and if you feel lost, please use a few resources which are quality materials. And those materials should align with your learning style as well. For example, if you think that you can't learn languages with books, like it's not your thing, you maybe shouldn't include books in your language materials, and you should go for audio materials or YouTube videos. Using some content that is adapted to your level is quite essential, because it will help you to recall the things that you have learned in the past. But also something that you shouldn't ignore is using other content which are slightly higher than your level. It should be a little bit difficult, and you shouldn't have like 100% comprehension on that thing. Always staying at easy materials which are exactly at your level can give you a false sense of proficiency, and you may start thinking that you can understand everything and that this is what language is supposed to look like. But that's not always the reality. Always try to increase the level of difficulty of the content that you are watching. It's a great way to get your brain introduced to a bunch of new stuff in that language, like vocabulary, expressions, or even like grammatical structures. Especially if you have already learned a language from the same language family. Let's assume that you are already a Spanish speaker and you are studying French. Don't think yourself like any other French learner, because you aren't like them. You already have some basics because you speak Spanish. Just try to watch some French content with French subtitles, even if you don't understand everything, because by the time you will start understanding, that's how I learned Italian and Spanish, after French. So as you can understand, challenging yourself with some slightly difficult content is really useful and is something that I would sincerely recommend. Something I really love about languages is the fact that languages are everywhere in our lives. You can learn maths at school, but at the end it's just in your textbook that you're going to see or practice it, or you will take an exam. But languages are like, everything is related to languages. You are speaking languages, you are hearing languages, you are reading them. The world is literally made of languages. Which means that life is a language practice. So why don't you use it? Some people are just studying a language and then they see it like any other stuff that they're learning at school, at university, and they forget about it. And they never think about speaking it with someone or watching something in that language, then why you learned it? Like, all that effort. I just don't get it. And something we should change is the mindset, because people are quite afraid to practice a language, especially with native speakers. But don't be afraid, because native speakers most probably won't judge you. It's mostly the people from your country that judge you, because that's what I observe with myself and other people on the social media. You may often get discouraged by the stuff that you hear. For example, you saw someone making a video in a foreign language and in the comments people are just criticizing the accent or just saying that it doesn't sound natural at all. But also keep in mind that those are mostly not the native speakers who make those kind of comments. A native speaker would probably appreciate the way that you're speaking. For example, my Russian pronunciation is like never criticized or insulted by Russian people. But sometimes Turkish people just don't like the way that I'm speaking Russian and they say that it's not accurate. Which doesn't make sense at the end of the day. Native speakers will think that your accent is cute. Here in Italy, when I have to deal with serious stuff like going to post office, I always activate my second Italian, which is like, I still have all necessary vocabulary and expressions and somehow I speak so fluently, but I speak with an accent and I act like I have a lot of difficulty speaking Italian and I can't just speak it. So that they think that you're cute and they're more likely to get the things done for you. Native speakers can teach you a lot of things. And the feedback that you're getting from native speakers will be life-changing. So just don't be afraid and talk to everyone, engage in conversations. And lastly, something that I'm still suffering from, because I'm just trying to adapt to all the change in my life. I just moved to a new country and I started university and I have a midterm and I'm turning 19. Stop, okay? And you're telling me to study languages regularly. I know it's so hard, but still, assuming that most of the people here aren't learning like 7, 8 languages at the same time. Let's say that you're learning 1, 2 or 3 languages. You can actually be consistent with those languages, because consistency is super essential. Right now I'm studying for a political science midterm in Italian and I'm like, if I studied all of those stuff regularly, right now I would have 0 problems. But I didn't study them regularly and right now I'm studying 5 hours a day. I'm still learning, but if I studied regularly, it would be better and I would have less stress and I would just have learned everything in a better way and I would probably get a better result from the exam. Take it for all the aspects of your life and not only for language learning, but creating a routine and sticking to it is actually something life-changing as I would define it. After my midterm, I'm going to Sweden for a few days and the first thing that I'm doing when I come back from Sweden to Italy is establishing a routine. And maybe I'm doing that in a video so that you can also get some idea about my type of organization, both for my daily life and language learning. But just keep in mind for this video for today is that being consistent in the language that you're learning, practicing it every day, spending time every day, not only studying but maybe listening to some stuff, even songs, is so important and you shouldn't ignore it. Please recognize the mistakes that you were doing, or if you have any other mistakes to mention, you can simply leave a comment. If you appreciate my content and if you enjoyed this video, please show me your support by subscribing to my YouTube channel and also following me on social media platforms. Thanks a lot for your time and attention and see you in another video. Ciao!